So now, let's talk about the maturation of the T cells, how the T cells become mature. Okay, mature. Okay, so basically, this process is known as the thymic education. Thymic education. Education meaning it has to be tested. Okay, so T cells, they are produced from the bone marrow. Okay, bone marrow. But these cells are produced immature. They are not mature. So the immature B cells, the mature T cells are known as thymocytes. These are immature T cells. So when they are being produced, where do they go? They need to go to the thymus. Thymus. So, thymocytes, there are premature T cells, okay? They are not mature. But the naive T cells, naive can be naive T cell or naive B cell. So naive, it is the cell that has not yet encountered with any pathogen. It is already mature, have you seen? But it hasn't yet encountered with the what? The pathogen. The cells are produced in the bone marrow. After being producing the marrow, we are talking about the T lymphocyte here, because the B cells, it get mature in the same bone marrow. So the T cells here, they goes to the thymus. So we need to know about primary organs of the immune system and also the secondary organs of the immune system. So when you talk about the primary cells of the immune system, not cells but organs of the immune system, these are the organs where the lymphocyte cells get matured. For the B cell, it gets matures in the bone marrow. Then for the T cell, it gets matures in the what? In the thymus. So these two, the bone marrow and the thymus, are primary immune organs. Then when we talk about the secondary immune organs, these are the organs where adaptive immunity is mediated. So this can include the spleen, the lymph node. Because after these cells are being matured, they are transported to the primary organ for storage so that it can wait for them to become activated so that it can mediate the adaptive immunity. So secondary organs of the immunity, these are the organs that facilitate the adaptive immunity. That where adaptive immunity is mediated. So the bone marrow and the thymus are for the primary, because these facilitate the maturation of the lymphocyte, which is the B for the bone marrow, and the T is for the thymus. Okay. So now, how is thymic education is being done? How does the T cell become mature? So initially, when the cells are being produced, which is the thymocytes, they have both CD4 and CD8. And we know that there is T helper and T cytotoxic. The T helper, it has the CD4. Then the T cytotoxic has the CD8. So T helper, it is also known as the CD4. The T cytotoxic, it is also known as the CD8. So meaning, when the thymocyte is being produced from the bone marrow, it has both of them, meaning it can't be differentiated to be the T helper or the T cytotoxic. So when it reaches in the thymus, it undergoes the processing, which is thymic education. Now, in thymic education, there is the positive selection and the negative selection. Okay? When something is done in a positive manner, meaning it has done in a way that is expected to be done. But in a negative way, meaning it has done the opposite. Meaning, if these cells perform in an opposite way than it is expected to perform, these cells are killed by apoptosis, which is the negative selection, of which I'm going to consider here. So, what you need to know about the T cells here, you should know that T cells, all the T cells got CD3. But what differentiates them is the CD4 and the CD8. So CD8 is specifically for cytotoxic, then CD4 is specifically for the T helper. So now this is the thymocyte in the thymus. In the thymus there, it finds the endothelial cells. These endothelial cells has the MHC molecules, okay? And the two types of MHC, there is class 1 and class 2, okay? So there is class 1 and the class 2, this, as the endothelial cells has got this. So now, these thymocytes, okay, having these two types, they are being tested with the endothelial cells, meaning these thymocytes which recognize the major histocompatibility 1, when the thymocyte recognizes this, meaning that those type of thymocytes are classified to be T cytotoxic, because this major histocompatibility 1, these are the molecules that are expressed by the host cells, the cells of the body. So meaning CD8 are responsible for recognizing this molecule in our body, and the function of this molecule, it gets the processed antigen and show it to T cytotoxic. So meaning it has to be tested, because it has to be tested for its function. Then when these premature T cells recognize the HMC2, meaning are classified as what? As CD4, which is the T helper. So this is the first test. So meaning at this point we are going to have, if this premature T cell recognize this, it is classified as T cytotoxic. If it is the MHC2, it is CD4, which is T helper. So now we are going to have now the CD4 and the CD8 here. Okay, so now this CD4, it is responsible for recognizing MHC2. This one recognizes MHC1. Okay, this MHC1, it is for the host cells. Okay, the host cell. But the function of this, the function of MHC, it meaning I'm talking about both MHC, the function both to recognize the processed antigen. To recognize the processed antigen, they both. So meaning, if the host cell has got a foreign particle, that foreign particle can be represented by MHC1. Then if the antigen presenting cells engulf the pathogen, that pathogen is being processed and being presented by MHC2. Then when it is being presented to CD4. Antigen presenting cells are phagocytic cells. So here, when these are presented, so meaning there will be two types of education here. Two things will be tested, meaning CD8 will be tested and also CD4 will be tested. So meaning here, what will come to test this, the function of CD8? It is the same antigen presenting cell. The same. It can be either the macrophage or the B cells, meaning they ask to present the antigen here. The molecule has to present the molecule here. Meaning, if these CD4 are able to bind with this molecule, understand? If they're able to bind with this molecule and produce cytokines, meaning they are fit for its purpose. They are fit for its purpose, meaning this is the positive selection. But if they are unable to recognize this, if they are not recognizing this, meaning they are not fit for its purpose, meaning these cells can't live, they has to die by apoptosis. Apoptosis. We go to this CD8. Is it the antigen presenting cell that presents the molecule here? No, but it is the host cells. Understand? The host cells. So if this recognize the host cell, bind the histocompatibility of the histocompatibility one of the host cell. So when this bind this so strongly that it is even able to produce chemicals, then this is not fit for its function, because it is acting for a long purpose. This can only kill the viral infected cells or the tumor cells. That's for CD8. But now if it is able to kill the normal host cell, meaning it has to be negative selection, it has to be killed, it can't be allowed to continue being in the body, because it can cause autoimmunity, where the cells are being killed just because of this. So this is how the thymic education is. First, when the cells are being produced, the T cells, they are premature. Being premature, it has got both CD4 and CD8. For it to be classified as CD4 or CD8, it has to be tested with the MHC. Yes. Is a major histocompatibility 1 and 2. If the T cell recognizes the MHC1, that cell can be termed to be CD8, which is cytotoxic. If it recognizes the MHC2, it is CD4, which is termed to be the T helper. That is not the end of the journey. It also has to be tested based on the function that it does. Okay? To be tested by the antigen presenting cells. Is it able to recognize it? If it is able to recognize that this is the antigen presenting cell and act accordingly, meaning those cells are to be remained in the body because they are producing the positive result. So that's for it to remain, they are being selected as part of the immune cells, which is the positive selection. But if it fails to perform its function, they are eliminated by apoptosis, which is the negative selection. Same applies to T cytotoxic. It has to be tested with the host cells. If it fails to recognize that this is the host cell, it has to be killed by apoptosis. But if it recognizes that this is the host cell, it has to remain because it is fit to work for its function. So this is thymic education.